The economic shifts happening right now, I mean, with AI and automation really taking up, it's not just about new jobs, it's the sheer speed of demand for really specific skills. We're kind of at a breaking point, aren't we? You look at these high growth areas, advanced manufacturing, data centers, green energy, specialized healthcare, they're all desperate for trained people. And the really tough part is you've got millions of these great jobs just sitting empty. Why? Because our colleges, our universities, the traditional routes, they just can't move fast enough. They're stuck. The cost of labs, curriculum taking ages, limits on how many students can physically fit. So today we're doing a deep dive into something pretty bold. It's called the EON Reality SkillBuild Special Purpose Vehicle, or SPV. They claim it's a third way to fund higher ed, one that gets rid of those huge upfront costs and lets institutions launch job-ready programs super fast, like 90 days fast. Okay, let's unpack this then. We've heard buzz about immersive tech for ages, right? But what makes this specific financial setup potentially different? Is it really about knocking down those money and time walls?
Yeah, and to really get why this SPV thing is even on the table, you have to see the scale of the skills gap.
Yeah.
It's not just a gap, it's becoming a chasm. We're looking at projections of over 160,000 unfilled data center tech jobs just in the U.S.
Right.
And that's the backbone for the whole AI push. Then add hundreds of thousands more needed for clean energy, for modern healthcare roles. These aren't generic jobs. They need serious hands-on technical skills. And traditional education, well, it just hasn't kept up. The core models, they were kind of fundamentally mismatched for this speed.
Right. We basically have two paths now, and both have big problems. First, there's the traditional physical in-person education. It works well, right? It's engaging, hands-on.
Yeah.
But wow, the cost. Setting up a modern lab for, say, robotics or healthcare simulation, you're talking easily $1 million, maybe 5 million plus. And even then, you're limited by physical space. How many students can actually use the lab at once? It's slow, it's expensive.
Exactly. And the alternative, pure online education. Okay, that solves the scale issue. You can reach thousands. But the trade-off is huge. Engagement drops off a cliff. We know this. Completion rates for those kinds of online courses, often way below 15%. So you might scale, but are the graduates actually job ready? Often not really.
Okay, so this third way is pitched as the best of both, taking the engagement from physical learning and mixing it with the scalability of online. And the tech enabling this is immersive XR extended reality plus artificial intelligence. So what are the key pieces of tech that make this supposed fusion happen?
Well, the core idea is building these really accurate virtual labs. Physics accurate. Think about a student training on, I don't know, a complex data center cooling system. Instead of needing access to a $100,000 physical unit, which is often limited, they jump into a virtual twin, digital sandbox. They can practice over and over, make mistakes without real-world costs, like big mistakes, and really hone those skills. That's the immersive experiential learning part. It gets around the massive cost and physical limits of equipment.
Okay, that tackles the equipment and space issue head on. But what about the teachers? The faculty? If you suddenly have unlimited students in virtual labs, you can't just clone the professors, right? So the AI part must be more than just a buzzword here. It has to be functional.
Precisely. The AI mentor system is really the key to making the scale work without just, diluting the quality. Think of it as a super smart, infinitely patient teaching assistant available 24/7. It watches what the student does in the virtual lab, every step, every mistake, every correct diagnosis, and it gives personalized feedback right then and there. It can help someone struggling or push someone who's getting it faster. Adaptive learning, and that capability, personalized adaptive teaching at scale, that's where the real value is supposed to be. It frees up the human instructors. They can focus on the more complex stuff, the mentoring, validating skills, not just repeating the basics over and over.
And the speed aspect relies on this huge library they have, over 36 million 3D assets. So instead of waiting years for textbooks or curriculum updates, they can basically grab existing industry-verified 3D models, pull them into a virtual course, tailor it to what a local company needs, and boom, new training program in weeks.
Exactly right. And it all lives inside a branded virtual campus for the college. Their own digital space, unlimited students, no construction crews. So yeah, the tech package makes the speed feasible. But the really interesting part, the deep dive, is the financing that makes it all possible up front. What's fascinating here is the SkillBuild SPV. That's the special purpose vehicle. Its whole reason for being is to take 97.5% of the upfront financial risk off the college's shoulders.
Okay, SPV. Special purpose vehicle. For people not deep in finance, it's like a separate company set up for one specific job, right? Often financing things. So why use this specific legal structure for education funding? What's the advantage?
It really boils down to liability. and making sure everyone's interests are aligned. The FPV legally takes on the debt risk. If a college normally borrows millions for a new building, that debt sits on their books. They need collateral, they have fixed payments, even if enrollments don't meet projections. With the FPV model, EON, through the SPV, covers 97.5% of those setup costs, the virtual labs, AI, content setup. They hold the primary financial risk, the college. They chip in just 2.5%.
Yeah.
And that's not really a fee. It's more like earnest money. It shows they're committed. They have some skin in the game.
Got it. So the college isn't actually borrowing in the traditional sense. It's more like a partnership where the risk is tilted heavily towards the provider. And the repayment reflects that. It's tied to success. Tell us about the revenue share.
Yes, it's a 70-30 split. The institution keeps 70% of the revenue the program brings in. EON, via the FPV, gets 30%. And here's the critical part. That 30% payment only happens if the program actually enrolls students and generates revenue. If, for whatever reason, the program doesn't take off, the college has lost its 2.5% buy-in, sure, but they aren't stuck with millions in debt for an empty virtual lab. The risk is shared, yeah, but EON takes the vast majority of it.
Okay, hold on. That timeline. A 90-day launch. Seriously, in higher ed, just getting a proposal through committees can take months, never mind building something. 18 to 26 months feels normal for anything big. 90 days, well, it sounds like marketing hype. What realities have to be ignored or pushed aside to hit that speed? Where could this fall apart in those 90 days?
Well, you're right to be skeptical. That speed is only possible because the two biggest delays, capital funding and content creation, are drastically compressed by the tech platform. But the biggest institutional norm they have to sort of bulldoze. It's the slow pace of checking if there's actually demand for the program. And you nailed it. The biggest risk is right at the start. The first 14 days. See that 97.5% funding. It's not automatic. It's completely conditional on proving market demand first. Days 0 to 14 are all about mandatory talks with local employers. The college must get commitment letters. Proof that companies actually need people with these specific skills and are willing to partner on placements. If they can't show that real employer buy-in within 2 weeks, the deal's off. The SPV funding doesn't happen. The risk alignment kicks in immediately.
Wow, okay. That changes everything. It forces the college to act like a business, basically. Be
Yeah.
market-driven from day one. All right, so assuming they get that crucial employer validation in the first 2 weeks, walk us through the rest of that rapid 90-day sprint.
Right. So days 15 to 45, that's when the tech deployment really kicks into high gear. The virtual campus gets set up with the college's branding. The virtual labs pulled from that big asset library get deployed. The AI mentors get configured. This replaces, the 18 months you might spend waiting for construction permits, equipment delivery. Then, by days 45 to 60, you're looking at a full program launch. And importantly, because of that initial employer work, those partnerships for internships, for interviews, maybe even hiring guarantees, they're already baked into the program from the start. It's designed around immediate workforce needs.
And the financing covers the whole package, right? Not just the software. It's the virtual campus, the AI, the library access, hosting, compliance stuff, and updates, too.
Yes, the continuous updates are really key, especially for tech fields. Traditional programs can get outdated so fast, maybe 3-5 years. This model builds in content refreshes every 6 to 12 months. The goal is to stay locked in with what employers actually need right now, making it, hopefully, future-proof.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Comparing the old way versus this SPV approach with actual numbers, the before and after, it really highlights the shift.
Yeah, look at the pain points it addresses for the institution. Time to launch. 36 months down to 90 days. That's huge. Capital needed up front. Potentially millions, versus just that 2.5% contribution. Suddenly, programs that were impossible financially are now on the table.
And for the student, the impact seems just as big. You mentioned online completion rates, often dismal, like under 15%. But with this immersive, hands-on feel, even though it's virtual, they're seeing completion rates jump to 70, 80% or more.
That's the claim, yes.
Yeah.
Because it feels more engaging, more like real practice. And that efficiency should translate into getting people job-ready faster. Instead of maybe 12 or 24 months for a traditional certificate, these immersive programs aim for maybe 3 to 6 months, delivering skilled workers at the speed the market needs them.
Let's make this concrete with that data center technician example you mentioned. There was a college, right, facing huge local demand, 66,000 unfilled jobs nearby. But they were stuck because building the needed physical labs, electrical cooling systems would cost $1.5 million they didn't have.
Exactly. So under this SkillBuild model, the SPV put up the 97.5%, which is about $1.46 million. The college needed to find just $37,500 for their 2.5% share. They launched with virtual data center labs, AI mentors, the whole package. And because it was scalable, they could aim for much higher enrollment. And the key result, positive cash flow almost immediately. Year one, they apparently enrolled 500 students. With their 70% share of that tuition revenue, the college brought in $1.4 million. It shows how, if you get the employer buy-in and drive enrollment, it solves the training gap and can become a significant new revenue stream.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. What if they don't hit 500 students? Say they only get 50 in the first year. That 30% going back to EON to repay the SPV. Could the college's 70% share end up being less than their own operating cost for the program, even with the low upfront buy-in? It feels like there's still significant pressure to recruit heavily and ensure those job placements happen. It's not zero risk, execution-wise.
That's a really crucial point. You're absolutely right. The SPV takes away the capital risk, the big upfront debt burden, but it absolutely dials up the execution risk for the institution. They have to be good at marketing these programs, recruiting students, and crucially, delivering on those employer partnerships and placements. Success is totally dependent on their ability to perform in those areas, which, frankly, is a big culture shift for a lot of traditional academic departments.
The sources also mention some flexibility on the student funding side, different ways the programs can be paid for.
All right, they outline three main ways. First is using the model to win grants. Because they can show a fast launch and potentially high completion rates, it makes grant proposals more competitive. Second, focusing on workforce funding, tying programs directly to what local workforce boards need, making them eligible for vouchers and public funding streams.
And the third?
General purpose funding. Basically using the tuition revenue, that 70% share the college keeps, to not only sustain the program, but potentially fund other initiatives or shore up budgets elsewhere. So these SPV-funded programs can become engines for growth across the institution if managed well. If we zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, this kind of model really pushes institutions towards constant innovation, just relying on slow, expensive physical expansion. It doesn't seem sustainable when the economy is changing this fast, largely due to AI. Adopting something like this, it positions a college as forward-thinking, as a vital partner in regional economic development, not just a follower.
Okay, so summing up the big advantages. Speed, 90 days to market, almost no capital barrier on the college's books, and potentially infinite scale thanks to the virtual labs and AI mentors. But as you've really emphasized, getting access to that funding, that 97.5%, isn't free. It comes with serious strings attached regarding how the institution operates.
Absolutely non-negotiable strengths. Success really depends on the college embracing a different way of working. They must identify programs based on hard data about job demand. They must lock in real employer partnerships for placement. And, critically, they must commit to tracking and reporting outcomes transparently. Enrollment numbers, completion rates, and verified job placements. That data fuels the whole model.
So what does this all mean then? It seems the SkillBuild SPV tackles the money and infrastructure problems head-on, problems that have really held back higher ed expansion. But in solving that, it shifts the burden, doesn't it? The core challenge isn't managing buildings anymore, it's managing market results. The capital hurdle might be gone, but now success hinges entirely on tight employer links and proving outcomes. Which leads to the final thought. Are colleges and universities, culturally and operationally, ready for that kind of direct market accountability, where enrollment and job placement data isn't just for reports, but directly impacts their financial viability on these programs? That seems like the real test of this third way.